Right, guys. We're going to be going into our final week with the guys up at the golf club. You've both been brilliant in what you've delivered for us. This coming week's all about game management. All right, but before we get into that, I think what the guys would love to know is a bit more about you two, about your golf journey. So I'm going to point at Rhys first. Just tell us a bit backstory. How did you get into golf? How did you suddenly realise you were pretty good at the game? How did you get even better at the game? You know, just over to you, mate.
I had somebody come to school, the Golf Foundation, but had subsidised lessons, and somebody came to school and said the local club were offering 6 weeks, I think it was, for a £5. Shows you how long ago it was. I went along and pretty much never stopped playing, and then there was a good group of us that all grew up together playing golf all summer. Just about made the Welsh squad at 17, the Welsh junior squad, having played a few county bits. Never played, but I got into the coaching squad. And then when I was 19, turned pro off 2. Worked for a little while at Shrewsbury, then at Basingstoke Golf Centre, then at Alsford, and then very short one at Sanford Springs, and then I moved up to Downshire. So that's pretty much been my sort of golfing history. Whereas
did you do any tour golf?
Not tour golf, no, only ever local stuff. I qualified for the Club Professionals Championships a few years ago, and played in the finals of that, didn't do so well in the end. That's probably the biggest event I ended up competing in, which is still a big event. So that's a big prize fund. It's a difficult one to qualify for. There's only about half a dozen spots in each region after stuff. So yeah, it was a nice experience. But otherwise, just played local PGA stuff.
Brilliant. And what about you, Nick?
Quite different, I guess. Golf always kind of played second fiddle to my main sport, which was football. So I was part of the Chelsea setup, and then moved to Fulham and was part of their scholarship set up there, and signed professional terms. So I played with them until I was 20. And golf was, I think I was off a 1 or 2 handicap from 14 or 15, just playing with my brother and my dad. Then joined the Wentworth Scholarship program alongside my football, and from there decided that golf was the route for me. And I spent 6-7 years playing the Alps Tour, which was a tour all over Europe, getting a lot of great experience from tours in the US as well. Seen a lot of great coaches, learned an awful lot about how my management around a golf course. And then I look back now, and there's a lot of bad decisions and things I'll do very differently. Yes,
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And then from there, realised I probably wasn't good enough to make it on the PGA Tour, the European Tour. I reckon it's about 1.5 shots around, which is about 6 shots in a tournament. And that was the difference between me not progressing to the next tier and staying where I was. And eventually the pot of money runs out. So you got to look to earning through the coaching regime, and went through the PGA. I was at Blue Mountain before joining the Downshire. So a lot of interesting experiences, a lot of great coaches I've seen along the years, and trying to kind of impart some of that knowledge along the way.
Who's the best footballer you've played with?
Oh, Andy Cole.
Who's the best player you played against?
Theo Walcott, I'd probably say.
Very good, very good. Was he at West Ham at the time?
Southampton.
Southampton. Did he ever play for West Ham?
No.
There you go. That's it. That's the extent of my football knowledge. If it's not West Ham, I don't know. Right, boys. So game management then. So let's start. Let's sort of set the scene. Who wants to define game management for me?
I think for me, game management is very much making a decision, sticking with it, and hitting your routine, and trusting that routine. Because if you don't trust that, and stick to that routine and stick to your decision, then you're going to bail out mid-shot. I think that is real key. Once you've made a decision, go with it.
I think for me, it's about taking on shots which you know you can actually perform and execute. You can't be taking on something which, you know, you just haven't got the shot in your locker, or it's only a 3 out of 10 shot that, you know, you're just very unlikely to execute that. And very much just trying to play smart, no glaring errors from really, really poor course management. Not just gifting away shots to the golf course. It's a tough enough game as it is, so just no glaring errors, and make sure you take on shots which are within your ability, that you've executed on the driving range or many a time on the golf course before.
Oh, I'll tell you what, lads, I've written down 4 lovely cliches there that you can dig around a bit for me. So, Rhys, you talked about bailing out. I've heard shot in your locker. I've heard play smart. I've heard gifting shots to the course. So for me, they sound very cliche. I really want to understand what this stuff means, so that for the guys that you brilliantly work with on the course, there's been some brilliant feedback. There's been some players that have really got lots out of the sessions and started to lower their scores. Now they're going to hit a ceiling at some point. They're going to want to try and come down even further. Let's start opening up on some of those sayings. So let's talk about shots in your locker. What does that mean in game management terms?
If I try and give an example, like I struggled looking back, kind of par 5, second shot into a par 5 with a fairway wood. I'd always take it on. I was kind of at professional level, but I just was never very good at that shot. I wasn't good enough. I would always end up costing myself a bogey from there. So I'd hit it offline. I'd hit it, have to take a penalty. And I probably didn't strategize well enough. I just tried to be far too aggressive rather than playing smart until I worked hard enough at that aspect of my game to then actually take on the shot. So,
what was playing smart in that context then? What did you learn to do differently?
Well, I didn't. That was, what I do differently now is just laid myself up to more of a wedge distance, which I knew I was very good at. And statistically, when I look back, kind of from 70 to 100 yards, I was excellent. I believe I was good enough, to make it on the tour with my wedges, but I was still trying to hit it on the green and to set up, an eagle putt from 250 yards out with a 3-wood over a lake, or without a bounds on the wrong area. I just wasn't disciplined enough with that and didn't think about it hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially over a 4-round format, you've got to not take on those shots, plot your way around. You've got to really think about. I've learned from mistakes I've done in the past. Going thinking back, Nick, you'd be completely approaching it completely different now, wouldn't you? Just having that person in your ear at a younger age will influence you with that, but could have been a different story. But for me, if you do make a mistake, don't make 2.
Yeah.
Don't be the hero. If you're way out of position, just take punishment. A card in hand. Maybe if you're playing match play and you're struggling in the hole, okay, it's a different scenario. But if you've got a card in hand, try not to follow up a mistake with a mistake. I think that would be key for me. Get the ball back in play. Give yourself a chance with the next one.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I get that. So, I want to take a bit of a tour around Downshire in a bit. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you a clip from a series called Breaking 90. Now, obviously, when golfers start, the first milestone is, can I break 100? The next milestone, can I break 90? Next milestone, can I break 80? And then, there's some that I want to break 70. So I'll just throw this clip, and then I want you to just talk about your thoughts around it. Is that all right? Brilliant. So let me just share this. Hopefully you can see that. You hear that, guys?
Yeah.
No hybrid here? Yeah, I mean, hit whatever you want to hit. Like, you don't have to get crazy with this.
Right.
Like, if you want to hit 180, you can hit 180. Like, try and make a 5. 220 doesn't have to be the daunting number.
Right. I was thinking maybe like just a 5 or 6 iron.
Whatever you feel comfortable with advancing the ball, take this like a par 5. Grab the pin rangefinder and let's see exactly how far we are from here, and then we'll decide on what the next shot is.
Okay. 229.
All right. So in reality, that's just a little far out of your reach.
Right. So I think I'm just going to take...
Now the fact that you've eliminated trying to hit the green, hit whatever you want to hit that's going to give you a nice second shot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hit a 6 iron.
Yes, dude. That's like the best decision we've ever made in fucking Breaking 90 history. You just crushed that thing.
All right, 50-yard shot on the nose. 90%.
So there you go, boys. There's a classic example. 229 yards out. So I suppose that's back to the, do you take an hybrid long iron? Talk to us around that for us club amateurs.
You going to go, Nick? Or?
You go.
I think there's examples of this in Downshire. Hole 4, for example. If you've got the shots and you don't hit a great one off the tee, then it's, do you take off? Is it in your locker? Leave yourself a yard wedge in from short of there. It's I quite often when I'm playing, I evaluate the shot in front of me and go, well, if I hit this club, I'm bringing this danger into play. Whereas if I hit another club, then I'm going to leave myself in a safe position. I think a good example for me at the minute would be hole 6. Is it hitting a driver down there right now is a no-go area. I think it'd be like an iron just to play the ball down to the left-hand side of the fairway, depending on who's playing clearly. But you're looking to leave yourself a line into the green. It's being sensible with shots. It's I've seen people try and drive it on 15. I don't know if you're guilty of that, Ty, but that's just like a complete no in my books, because unless you're playing match head to head and they've done something special, I don't know, but you're just bringing everything into play. I've taken you through the deck system before, which is playing your average shot all the time. It's hitting your percentage shot. What can I hit that's not going to leave me in any danger on my next shot? I think it's a really interesting way to plot yourself around.
I think it's all just linking back to that clip as well. It's all relevant on what your goal is. So if you're trying to break 90, then that's that, by hitting that 6 iron is the right play.
Absolutely.
And leaving it a 50-yard chip. But if you're trying to break 80, then you've got to be competent with your long irons and your hybrids, and ultimately you've got to get better. If you can't hit a green with those 2 clubs, you've got to start working hard at that. So it's relevant to what your goals are.
My mention was bringing danger into play off the tee by hitting the wrong club off the tee, more than any regards to what I was going on about. If you're competent enough with those longer shots, you should take them on. You should have then the short game just miss the green to hopefully get up and down.
Fantastic. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen with you again, lads, because I've got the course for you to look at, and I thought what we could do for this pod, or this piece of work, is to maybe play the front 9 together, and you can talk to me about how you play it and how you'd advise someone sort of mid-teens and early 20s handicaps and maybe higher, and how they might play it. So let's just see if you can see this. So hopefully you should be able to see that. Ignore the handsome devil at the top. But we're on the first tee at Downshire. So we know it's a par 4. We know it's about 340 yards. We know that bunker's at about 175. What you thinking? So let's say we're playing off the whites. It's competition. I can see we got a big fat part of the fairway here, and I know that, if you go left here, you're in trouble. If you go right, you're in trouble. What's your thoughts? How would you play it? What's your club selection?
So
what are you thinking?
I always used to, when I played events, I'd always try and look for where the widest part of the fairway, and even kind of to where the semi-rough was. So where's the widest part? What can I hit to that?
So we're sort of looking here, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly that. So when I play the first, I very, again, speaking for myself, but I very rarely hit driver down there unless it's very, very wet and very cold. So just getting yourself to this position here, that's speaking for myself.
So we're looking there. There's probably about 210 yards.
Yeah.
Cool. Rhys, what are you thinking?
Always hitting a club off the tee that takes a bunker out of play for me. So it's either a 3-wood or a driver, depending on how I'm feeling. This time of year, it's probably going to be a 3-wood. I always have a feel that there's a lot more room right than you think near the bunker, because you can't a little bit blocked off. Yeah, there's a little bit more room down there than you think. So I'm always trying to hit the fade down there. Off there's you can just about make out the fir tree or the left-hand bunker if you like by the green. That's sort of my line, and I'm always trying to play the ball, move the ball to the right from that area.
So that's sort of that sort of fadey type shot into there.
Yeah. And then if you're a shorter hitter, you look at the fat part short left of the and then see if you chase another shot onto the green from there. Nothing really in your line. You can get it pretty close.
So what would your advice be for some of our guys that perhaps can't reach that green in two? Where would you play? Sort of how would you go about playing it?
I'd have it on a line. It depends on the shot shape. A lot of the higher handicappers generally, I'm not quoting everyone, but generally move left to right. So you're aiming up towards the trees on the left side and just trying to give yourself a zone where you're moving the ball a little back towards the bunker. And then you've got that big zone there, short left of that bunker is a massive zone, and then you've got between 150 and 180 into the green.
I think what I would say as well, just a point came to me, is for the second shot, always try and leave your second shot, so you know opening up the angle for your third. So think about where the pin is on the green.
Here.
So you actually position your second shot. That's going to make your third shot a lot more accessible to get to that pin. I think that's a very relevant point.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Brilliant. Let's see if we
let's come quickly back to that. If they're not going to get there in two, it's the shot up the left to start with and the shot down the right the second, and then you've got a nice little bump and run up the green or pitch up the green.
So you're suggesting the right distance into there. The next shot they're going to play an iron shot into sort of right hand side just to open that green up for a nice third.
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that. So hole 2, which is my kryptonite. I hate this hole. It's 486 off the white. We're teeing off from here. And it's a dog leg right. So how are you playing it?
I've had a lot of discussions with this hole. It's a funny one. For me, I think it's the toughest tee shot on the golf course because I think it's the narrowest. I think it's, I don't know, it's tricky. And also being an early partner round, you want to hit a good tee shot to build momentum and kind of build a bit of confidence, with the driver. So I like to see driver down there. But again, for you, type say it's your kryptonite, then you've got to be playing it as a 3-shotter and just building yourself into the round.
Yeah.
And leaving yourself a wedge in there or a distance that you feel quite comfortable that you can give yourself a good birdie look.
Yeah.
But I think for me, I want to stand up there and prove that I'm hitting driver well for the day and try and send it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's a left to right. It's from that tree just next to that tree there. Just trying to hit a left to right. So if you do overdo it and you go into the trees on the right, you've still got enough there to get it out into position to again get on in 3. And the draw down there can be a bit tough because you run out of space up the left hand side. It does open up a second shot if you get it right down there.
I seldom see anyone step onto the tee on the second without a driver in their hand. What would your advice be? Let's say average. Let's stereotype our average golfer. So they can hit 220 off the tee with a driver. You know, they've got half decent iron play. Would you advocate that they aim for this big wide part of the fairway here and play it as a par 5, or get the driver out and try and send a bomb down the middle?
I'd suggest, yeah. I mean, what I'd say, if you're a bit of a shorter carrier, the one thing you've got to be careful of is the landing area, sort of where the fairway begins, because everything kicks to the right.
Here.
Yeah, so you've really got to, in that zone, you've got to try and play that ball as close as you can to the left, because it does then really kick off to the right, and you can end up in the trees on the right-hand side. I've noticed that with a lot of playing lessons I do, they're not quite clearing that bank at times. If you're over that bank, you're fine. If you're not clearing that bank, there's a lot of balls that kick to the right towards these fir trees down here.
Yeah, and for the players the players like so. There's two shots that I see here outside of those that are fortunate enough to hit the fairway, but I see a lot of the balls go to the left, but equally I'll see a lot of balls going to the right here. That sometimes they get caught by these fir trees, sometimes they end up in the small conifers, if that's the right description of them, on the right hand side. If you find yourself in this area in particular, what's your advice for us?
Again, just going back to Rhys's earlier point about not compounding, like you cannot, you know, build an error on top of an error. So you've got to be quite conservative with the club that you choose and the gap that you're basically playing out of. You've got to make sure you get back in play, first and foremost. That doesn't mean a sideways chip out, but you've got to really make sure you have the right loft in your hand and you're picking the right target to get it back out somewhere here. You can't get stuck in here.
Brilliant. And then, so I just want to focus in as well, if that's okay.
Yeah.
On the approach shot, if I can. Sorry about the.
Could I just mention one thing on the tee again quickly, Ty, before that?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I always find that the actual tee markers in the tee box on number 2 points you quite a long way left. So just with most, you know, tee in areas, just try and get your angles correct.
Right.
And your alignment spot on, that, you know, you're not aligned to necessarily where the tee is pointing you.
Yeah.
So just get your angles and your alignment spot on, because that does point you a long way left there.
So I'm just trying to set up here, so you can see this would be the third. If we played 2 decent shots on the second, we would probably find ourselves around this area here, just around the corner. Now,
yeah, what I find before we carry on,
yeah,
I find focusing on the corner now, and what they don't do is hit it far enough. And if you look at the trees down there on the right hand side, they are so far across. You've got such a big area there to hit your ball into. If you are too, you're going to block yourself out for your third shot. So the key is it beyond the corner, not through the corner. There's so many people make a mistake of getting tangled up in that load of trees on the corner. Is just getting it far enough across so you've got a better angle into the green.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So looking at the green now, so if we imagine we're looking at that green, we've got the bunker left, we've got that troublesome bunker on the right. We know that the green runs left to right and probably a little bit front to back. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I find it a challenge to try and especially play a front flag on this hole, because pitching the ball short on this hole I find pretty difficult. What would be your advice on the front, middle and back flags on this particular hole?
It's easier to putt than chip.
Yeah.
So
we're not going to putt from 120 yards.
No, but you're saying front flag. It's make sure you maybe go more middle of the green.
Yeah.
Because if you pitch it short, you know, you very often get kicked to the right.
Yeah.
And it's especially when I'm going for the green in 2, I'm aiming much more for the left hand, trying to pitch it.
You've got to fly it all the way there, basically. On all them, you fly it all the way there. Our greens are often soft enough to hold. So,
and what would you say to the golfers that perhaps are not able to get that compression quite yet on the ball to be able to bring it in from height. They hit a lower golf ball.
I'd say you've got to try and land the ball just in the left front section so that it can stand up. It's in a bit of an upslope. Yeah. And then it's going to kick and roll down to the right. Any left pin that's there.
Brilliant. All right, let's move on. We got this. I think one of the trickiest par threes. I think a lot of the poor shots that
Come on, Ty. This is not a tricky hole, mate. Let's not. This is a
I've walked off this hole with a 6, mate. I see a lot of shots go left here. It's today, for example, is 116 yards to a middle pin. Go on, give us your thoughts. How you play?
I think it was. I personally think it was a really good par 3 when they had the tee over here, when there's a nice little shoot through those trees. I loved it when it was.
Above. Yeah, go above. Did you ever play it from back there, Nick? Yeah.
Yes, I loved it. I thought it was a lovely hole.
Go above the trees now, Ty.
Yeah.
Where your mouse is, go a bit higher up. There was a back in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Great little hole there.
Well, I know this is this can be a difficult hole, especially if you pull the ball left. Your second shot is really tough. But you talked about bailout earlier, Rhys. If you were looking to bail out here, where's the bailout spot?
I'd say short, because you've got an uphill chip or an uphill putt. But anything right at the moment is gonna run down that hill into the water.
Yeah.
But being a little, if you wanted to be conservative, it's going to be sort of a little bit short from the green from there. The one thing I've always found difficult on this green is actually getting the distance right, because the green's been so long. The front, middle, and back pin position can vary a lot of yardage.
Yeah.
You can hit a lot of different clubs into there. So it's making sure you've got that distance right. And the further back the green, obviously, the tougher it is to get back there, especially when it's soft.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think this hole could be as easy as it can be difficult, but we'll shift up. So, Nick, for you just sand iron, smash it in the green, sink a putt.
I just think, just speaking of our group, they're all fairly, pretty competent. From kind of 100 to 120 yards. They've all got a club that they can hit pretty accurately. I think anyway. So they've got to be taking dead aim there and then feeling like they can give themselves a birdie chance on that one. I don't think it's too overcomplicated from that tee.
And usually there's twos money on this hole, and suddenly everybody learns how to play golf at that point, don't they? When there's a bit of money on the table. Right, so fourth hole, so stroke index 2. This could be a difficult hole, especially when the tee is right off the back.
It's a monster.
419 when it's right off the back.
What do you hit off the back there, Ty?
Off the very back, I would try and take my driver, but more often than not, I would probably find trouble left. I find the tee shot quite difficult because it feels narrow.
It's a shoot, isn't it?
A great feel for me when you get a narrow tee shot is to stop thinking about the narrowness and think about a target through and beyond. I think I relate to sometimes you drive a car, you're going through a fairly narrow gap, but if you focus through the gap, you'll drive the car through easier. It's a bit one of those. Is pick one of the trees in the distance and just trust yourself to get it out there. I don't think you can turn it off that back tee either. There's no real need to hit a draw. The fairway bounces left. If you can get a fairly straight one up there, it's all going to feed its way down beyond the bunker into that approach area, if you like. You've got anywhere between sort of 120 and 180 into the green, depending on what you're doing. It's a case of trusting yourself to start it on that line, I think, is the key. really
that's
focus
great advice.
on the target, through the target, rather than worry about the edges.
How many of your competitions, Ty, are you actually on from the very back tee? Are they all from the very back tee, or just special ones?
Yeah, the majority at the moment, because they've built that lovely new back tee on the all-weather surface. Most of them tend to be. Today it was off the forward tee, so it was a little less intimidating as a tee shot. But Nick, I'll ask you a question here. Where is the last place you want to, apart from being in the woods, if you were to hit the fairway or the rough, where's the worst place to set up for the second shot?
Over here.
Yeah.
Just because you're blocked out, you haven't got any approach through here. It's quite a tricky layout. Yeah, you just got nothing from here really, unless you can hit it extremely high very early. So
yeah, so anything around beyond that bunker,
yeah,
no good.
You're better off missing it right. You've got more of an angle right, and I think you can then leave yourself in a better spot for your third.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you want to be hitting a good tee shot down there and picking your target. But yeah, left is just a no-go.
Yeah.
For me.
And for the players that are playing this hole as a par 5 that obviously can't quite carry that ditch second shot, what sort of club combination would you see them hitting off here? Sort of, would they need to take the driver or the
No, that's the thing. If you're definitely going to lay up short of the ditch, then you don't need to hit driver necessarily. You just got to put it in play and then just put yourself into a good spot to leave yourself with a third, a comfortable yardage. If that's the way you're going to play it, you've just got to pick a club which you're very confident that you're going to position that ball, in play.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Looking at the green, one of the fastest greens runs down from, as you look at the green, runs down from right to left, front, middle, back pins. If you hit it left of the flag at the moment, it's going to run off the green. What sort of advice are you giving us to manage this hole?
Certainly from a putting perspective, like always allow for more break on that. You're better off always keeping it on the high side with the putt because it always comes back. It's a slightly different point, but a lot of amateur putters just don't allow for enough break.
Yeah.
And, particularly with the greens being quicker as they are, they're going to break more. So just allow a little bit more on your putts, more than you think.
And yeah, I mean, hitting your approach button, sometimes you've got no option, but anything right of this green is a no-go area for me because you can't get it close. Anything up to that right. So even if you're in the bunker left, it's an easier shot than the bunker right because you're going up the green and everything's quicker. So if any miss into the green, it should be.
So yeah, absolutely. So if you're linking that back to the tee shot, if you hit your tee shot down the left, the only place you can really leave it is right, and then you've got nothing there. So just kind of strategizing that one.
Yeah, so we're trying to push that right to fairway. I heard Rhys say that as you go up the right hand side of the fairway, it naturally cambers round and bounces.
Quite a really good point, that. Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to skip the fifth, which is that lovely little dog leg that we all love. I mean, that's very quickly. Your advice would be hit the fairway, then turn right and try and hit the green.
Again, this is the widest spot. Yeah, hit it there, whatever that is, and then.
So yeah,
on the fifth, especially those who tend to hit the ball left to right, is I'd just say tee the ball up as far right as possible.
Yeah.
So that you can start that ball a bit further left and not leak it.
I got it. Yeah, so tee up on the right hand side of the tee box.
Yeah.
Just to allow a little left to right shot here.
And
Just give yourself more. That's a great point.
Enough club in your hand to get so you can see the green through it if possible.
Yeah, great point. So here's some interesting. So this is the sixth hole. We tee here, we go down, we go round. Now, but believe it or not, the guy I was playing with today hit his driver and it ended up here.
Yeah.
Which I think off the back tee measures something like 305 yards. Now, most of that was caused by hard ground slope. Yeah, brilliant shot, but it just went and went and went. So what I would struggle with here is it takes if I hit a 5-iron off the tee, I think to myself, that's nowhere near enough to get me within a decent shot to the green. And I think that's probably where the insistence will come. Well, I need a big, I need a club that goes a long way to get me into this area.
Yeah.
Then as well, then you're feeling because you got a 5-iron, then you're going to have to hit it hard, and then you swing it out of sync and you hit a poor golf shot, as opposed to just like, let's just hit a solid shot, and where it leaves me, it leaves me.
Yeah. So where are we aiming to get to on this hole then, guys? Because
if I was caddying for you, Ty, I'd be giving you I haven't seen you strike it and how firm it is, then a 5-iron is absolutely the right club for you, isn't it, down there?
Yeah, the trees on the corner here, I think this is something a lot of us really struggle with, is the fear of going slightly right on this hole and then blocking ourselves from a shot. Now that's and so I see a lot of golfers then they get in that anti-right mindset and they end up hooking it or even hitting these trees here, when we suppose what you're saying to me is we should be focusing on reaching the top of this ridge here.
Yeah.
So the widest part of the fairway.
You can hit it to the 150 marker there. That's about your zone, because you're eliminating the risk of hitting it, leaving yourself off blocked out. And even from the 150 marker, even up the right, you can still just about get it. And especially up the left, the further left you are, if you like, from 150, you've got access to the green. But the further up you go than that, then the tighter and tighter that drive becomes. And this is another one where I'd say tee it off up the right-hand side if you can, to open up that route down the left-hand side a little bit.
Yeah, so you're sort of looking at that type of shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the shot into the green here? Because obviously we've got like almost like a sunken dip. We're hitting across a valley almost. I mean, I know it's not a big chasm of a valley, but there is a definite raised green that you're hitting into, and sometimes you'll find yourself not on an even lie here. You'll have the ball, the ball will be slightly above your feet or slightly below your feet or slightly downhill in its lie. What sort of things should we be thinking about on this approach shot if we've hit a decent tee shot?
From my experience, I've always found the second shot here sometimes tough to club. I don't know if it's the swirling winds or whatever, but I would just make sure you have the yardage right to start with. And I generally try and hit half a club more than I should. I just find, I don't know what it is. There's always something funny going on with the distances for me on that approach hole. Quite often leave it short, and on the back, probably the worst. Even though it's enough chip, it's just a bit frustrating that you're not carrying it over. So sometimes the wind swirls through that area in a funny way. But just make sure of the yard.
Again, I think just taking pin into account again as well. If you've got a back pin there, you can't be going long. So just trying to hit centre of the green. Similarly, a front pin, you want to be hitting centre of the green. So centre of the green should always be your marker, really.
Yeah. So you advocate when you're looking at yardage, you're trying to take centre of green yardage as a rule of thumb.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
the other thing as well, our greens have got an awful lot smaller. Just looking at that picture there, and obviously part of Simon's plan, he wanted the greens a lot smaller. So if you are hitting the centre of the green, obviously you're never going to be actually that far away from where the flag is anyway. So you're still going to have certainly a makeable putt, I think.
Yeah. I suppose final point on this one. For us amateurs that find ourselves on this right side, and quite often we'll all try the hero shot either under the tree or over the tree. What would you advocate? Just chip it out.
Yeah. Chip it out. I think, just chip it out.
I mean, if you're quite far up and towards the end of the trees, maybe you could flight one and land it and run it up the green. Got to make sure that you've got that shot in your locker that you can play one of those little bump and runs. You fly the water and then let it run up. You're not going to get any height out of it. But apart from
I think mine will be if you're like a scratch golf for a 1, 2, or 3 handicap, and I think you probably got the skill to possibly thread it through or curve it around. But other than that, just chip it back here and get to work with your wedge game.
absolutely.
Yeah, fair one. 7th hole, straightforward. Sadly, this tree is no more with us. But again, a lovely hole. A very difficult hole for us off the back tee. The wind on this tends to blow into your face or out of the left, which brings these horrible bunkers into play. It brings all this crap into play. You know, some of our members off the back tee, it's a 155, 160 carry. Off the back, no, maybe less. 140, 145. What are you thinking here? Because at the end of the day, we just want to hit the green here, don't we?
Yeah, I think just the middle of the greens are great. You know, if you can, well, no, most people, quite everyone's going to take the middle of the green there, aren't they? So it's an easy thing to say. But I think just going back to one of Rhys's points, I've always stood on that tee and the wind really does swirl about. So you've got to know where that wind, that direction is coming from, and trust where it's coming from, even though if it feels something completely different on the tee when you're over the ball. It's always a tricky one.
My other point here is there's less trouble long than there is short. So even if you swing easy with a club extra, you're going to spin on the board, fly a bit more with a bit more penetration. If you try and hit it harder into that wind, it's just going to balloon up in the air, especially when it's whirling around there. Maybe try one more and go a bit easier and see if you can just safely navigate towards the middle back of the green, because again, all the trouble is short.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, I'm going to skip the 8th because it's the most boring hole in golf. I'm going to go to the 9th, which once I pick out the right one, I think this is it here. 2 brilliantly placed bunkers. I think. You
hit the ditch there today, Ty. Did you up in that ditch?
No, mate, I got nowhere near it. I found myself in that lovely little bit of gorse on the left.
Smelly.
Sliced an 8-iron out to the trees here. Chipped on and 2-putted.
Regular 5.
But I've been experimenting with hitting an iron off the tee. Yeah,
Really?
just to not
That's
get
desperate, Ty. That's desperate.
It is pretty desperate, mate. But I'm trying to not get in trouble on this hole. I'm really struggling to score on this hole.
You need to hit the bunker and cut it away. That's your stock shot.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Hit it at the left-hand bunker and cut it away, because you'll clear the right bunker. That's your stock.
Yeah, I hit it at the left bunker, mate, and I hit this tree here, and then it goes through this down here. No, I mean, it's a cracking par 5. It's for longer hitters. It's definitely a par 5 that you can reach into and maybe make a birdie. But how would you play? What's the sensible way to go at this? Where you're going to play it well? You're going to play it well more consistently. You're going to, because for me, again, it's another intimidating tee shot. I mean, this is a really narrow space, which a lot of us find ourselves hitting the fir tree on the right or hitting the trees on the left. From the back tee here, it is a pretty intimidating start.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're that shorter bunker is in play, I'd be looking at getting, playing yourself up the left as much as you can, which for me, teeing the ball up the right-hand side again, trying to open up that alleyway to get it up the left-hand side. Then you've got to do I don't I go over the ditch. It depends on how far you hit it, etc. Even if you play it as a 4-shotter, you've got a shot up the left, you've got a shot short of the ditch, then you can either have a go free or you leave it short and wedge it on.
Yeah, got you.
But certainly the longer hitter, if you've got it in your locker, is just try and hit it at that left-hand bunker and work it away from it. so that you got enough club to clear that right bunker, and you've given yourself a chance then into the green. It's a fairly long carry to go straight over it at the left-hand side. I don't think I could do it anymore. Nick might be able to if he butts one, but but yeah, I think the sensible play is to work it away from that bunker versus towards it. So draw, I think, is a little bit of a high risk shot. Unless the wind's off the right-hand side, then clearly you've got.
I think as well, there's just certain, again, just speaking from my experience when I've playing competitions, there's certain holes when you're playing a practice round, like, I've just got to stand up and hit a good golf shot here. And for me, that's one of those where, it is a tight tee shot, but you just got to stand up, with drive and hit a good golf shot. And have that, positive mindset that you're going to execute that.
Absolutely. And then, you've got that
positive mindset. Yeah, no, I agree. It's tough though. I mean,
it's tough, but you do have a couple in a round where you just have to, and if you don't, then you just accept, you just didn't have it that day. But there's a couple you just got to really just, I just think, taking an iron from their ties, not the play for you, mate.
Yeah, no, but again, I think it's back to in my defence, mate. What I'm thinking here is I just want to hit a wide part of the fairway. So I'm quite happy to play for this green in 3. If that's the sensible, pragmatic way to go. If I'm struggling in my round with my driver.
The thing is, you hit a bad tee shot today, and you still made 5.
Yeah, no, fair point.
On that hole, it is actually quite wide once you get it through the gap up there.
Yeah, my point is quite wide there once you get it through the gap.
Can miss and get away with it, whereas 10, you really can't. There are times where you shouldn't really hit drive off there.
Absolutely. 10 being one, if I was playing competition, I'd just be hitting an iron down that and just accepting it's a 3-shotter unless the wind is off the right. And I'd quite happily hit driver down there then. So if I do cut it a bit, it's going to be held up by the wind. Other than that, I'm just hitting iron straight down and just accepting a par or having a great wedge in there.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's us sort of getting to the end of the 9th hole. So what I want is your advice now from a course management perspective for us and how we use our shots. So there's going to be players that are on the course that they're going to have a shot on a hole. They might have 2 shots on a hole. When you've got shots in the bag, how do you use them? Will it influence your decision making when it comes to how you're going to play? So let's take the 4th. Let's go back to the 4th, for example. This is one of the holes where more often than not, the higher handicappers in the club are going to have 2 shots. So that essentially makes this hole a par 6. Would that influence how you play it so that you could more often than not score a 5?
Yeah.
Talk to me, because there are some players that would get 2 shots here that can comfortably reach the green in 2, but because they can hit the ball perhaps further but sometimes a little less consistently, that can get them into trouble.
I think they'd just be pragmatic about it. If you've got 2 shots in that hole, get on the green in 3 or 4. That's the goal. And then if you happen to get yourself in a position where you can get on in 2, I wouldn't. I mean, the tee shot is what sets it up, isn't it? Yeah. If you get a good tee shot away, fine. If you don't, then just take 3 or 4 together. You still then got 2 more shots. It's being pragmatic. It's using those shots wisely when you've got the opportunity to make a par or a birdie and or a pointer, then brilliant. But this is one of those where you're not going to make a 4 or 5 pointer very often. So try and get away with 2 or 3, especially 2-3 points if you're playing a Stableford. If you've got those shots in the bag, you eliminate the risk areas.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Just if you got 2 shots in that hole, don't be missing down the right-hand side of the green, because then that's not the place to be. Short left is always good there. Play to the widest spot, short left.
You've got you play short of the bunker. You've got a second shot. You can play short of the ditch, and then you've got a third that if you're going to run it in, you've got to aim straight and let the ball finish on the left edge of the green or down that left hand side. Then you've got an uphill chip up from the edge of the green.
Brilliant, brilliant. Right, lads, I'm going to finish with some quick fire questions for you because I'm just curious. Right, for both of you, you could win one major in your life. Which major is it you'd want to win?
The Open.
The Masters.
Why?
I like a green jacket.
Brilliant.
Just the I don't know. It just growing up watching the Masters, I just love it, and it's the start of the golfing season, isn't it? I mean, it's certainly from a Leicester's point of view, people are thinking about having lessons again. You kind of get a bit of hype about it, so it's golf.
Yeah, it's a fantastic tournament, fantastic. And you're in the BMW Match Play Finals. Who would you want to play against? Who wouldn't you want to play against? Today's golfers.
Oh, jeez.
On my game, take on anyone.
So who would we like to take on, and who wouldn't we like to take?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one, Ty.
Current form, Tony, by the signs of it, he's been.
I wouldn't want to take on Cam Smith because that guy's putting would just do my head in, like just constantly rolling in putts from everywhere when you think you've won a hole.
Yeah.
He's a gritty little player.
Yeah, and his mullet would do you in, no doubt.
Yeah.
and I would, one of the people I would maybe take on would be West because he's always been a bit dodgy with putt if he needs to make a half.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm gonna let you invite 3 guests to dinner. Any 3 guests, not necessarily golf, but you can have 3 guests for dinner. Tell us who they'd be.
Oh, Ty, I thought I was doing a course management thing here, mate, not a live Nick Murta life story.
Come on, who are you having for dinner?
That's too big a question for me. I need to really think about that.
I'd just pick 3 golfers. I'd go Seve, Jack, and Tiger.
Yeah, that'd be a good dinner party. Right, well, Nick, I want that answer on Thursday, mate.
Okay.
Brilliant. So tell us a bit about Thursday. What's your plans? What can the guys expect?
I think we'll see if we can get a couple of holes out there, and or have a little walk around and have a discussion around the holes. I'm not sure what the tee times are like.
Yeah. I think me and Rhys are going to get together and just have a chat about a couple of key points that we'd like to get to the group that we think are, potentially going to really save them some shots or get them thinking differently out there. But also it's a great chance for the group to just fire questions at us. And, nothing is actually a silly question, like just ask us and we'll give an opinion and then go from there. I think that's
brilliant. Well, you've very kindly given me an hour of your time, lads.
I really enjoyed that. It's good.
Checks in the post. And and again from all of us, thanks for all of the stuff that you've done for us over the last 12 weeks. There's definitely seeing 3-4 of our members hitting their targets for their handicaps has been fantastic, and we're definitely seeing the results of this in the scores that are being generated across the competition. So thanks ever so much, lads, and we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Thank you very much for setting up.